Hello, my name is Alina and I'm digital artist and sculptor with about 10 years of experience in video games. And I will take you through creative process. We will be doing sculpture, we will doing small bust in Zbrush, and we will sculpt from imagination. I love magical creatures, so I was thinking about what magical creature could live beneath a wave, and of course it's a mermaid. So I did some sketches. We do our job in Zbrush. For those people who are familiar with 3D, they know the software, and for those people who just introduced in 3D world or never work in 3D, this is a sculpting program, and it allows you to sculpt like almost you would be doing in a real clay, but with all advantage of digital technology like saves and Ctrl-Z. So let's get started. I start with very simple shapes. I try to keep it low res, and for those of you who is not in 3D, low res will be analogous to like having a very, very small picture in a Photoshop, like 500 pixel for 500 pixel. You don't have a lot of, you can't throw a lot of detail there, but you can define your shapes. And what I'm actually doing here, like it could be everything from this point, but it could be the good base for design. I still continue to do rough blocking, and right now she has a crown and a hair, and it starts to look like something. And I go a little bit ahead in details, and I make her face expression, and face expression, then I do it for my characters. It's usually a little bit of improvisation. I actually have no good idea if I want to make her sad or I might want to make her happy, but it turns out she's a very happy mermaid. Right now I working in gray material. You can choose your material on that side, and you can actually work on any material, any color you want. I prefer this matcap gray for blocking for my early stages, and I also work in symmetry. It really depends on the work you're doing. Sometimes for the games, you will be working in symmetry from the start till the end, depending on your concept, but most of the time. And for sculpting, for pure sculpting like we're doing here, I will be working in symmetry until I feel like it's time to give her some dynamics. So I use a customized brush interface. I also have my own hotkeys for the brushes. So I have 1 for clay build-up, 2 for move, 3 for Damian standard, and 4 for inflat, clay, 6 standard. Like it helped me to not to go and switch between brushes and like work more efficiently. After all, and I have my customized button here on this side. I strongly encourage you to do your own Zbrush interface. It's really easy. They kind of nail it very well, and this is a field of experimenting. You should build your own workspace. So let's do her thing. I will be working in Dynamesh. Dynamesh is actually the closest thing you can have resemble the traditional material, traditional clay. And what it allowed you to do is you can sculpt whatever you want, move whatever you want make it like that, pull it, and then you just 3D Dynamesh and you have more resolution and you can continue to work. Okay, let's get to the next step, which will be actually the color. The main decisions on design is already taken, so I know what proportions are, I know what your crown looks like, I know how I know what I'm gonna do with her necklace, because we need to close the bottom part, and designing a cartoony kind of character, you have to be very careful with details. Try to keep your design a little bit chunky, thinking of shapes, thinking in shapes. Don't go too much into detail, don't go into thin detail, because it brings it more closer to realism. And we want to keep this nice cartoony look for this particular thing. So very, very careful with detailing, and yeah, mostly try to control your shapes. This will be the key for your design. I will do a little bit of pink on her eyelids, but on top of her eyelids I will add some violet and a little bit under the eyes. I try to be really careful with the color, so I use 50% opacity, and I just color the same place again and again until I get the result I need. This is very traditional color scheme that a lot of artists use. The forehead usually a little bit more yellowish. The eye area is a little bit more bluish, and the bottom area is a little bit more bluish, and the nose and ears will be pinkish. So I haven't invented it, I just use it a lot. on the last stage right now, and the only thing that rests is to add more detail on her hair, add some individual hair strands, and paint it. So let's jump and do it. For the hair strands, like I block the basic shapes, it's not all now done. And for adding these individual pieces, I use curve strap. It's a very special brush here in Zbrush that allows you to do thing like lawn. I don't know how to say it. Long ribbon-like thing, and you can change the thickness of it, because for now I don't need it to be that thick. And here we go. Now let's move it on its place. This is probably one of my favorite parts. Like, everything is done by now. The only thing is rest is like small details that make your model more and more polished each time. Anyway, once we done with adding some more hair strands, we can go and do some fine details. And as I said already a couple of times, I try not to go into very small details, but still we want to have this feeling that this is a hair and it has a texture. For that we will go to standard brush, and we will choose pre-existing alpha that help us to give this nice hair-like texture. Almost done. The last steps I like to do for her skin I would like to add some freckles. It's not necessary because we're working with cartoony and just subtle gradient like painting will work fine, but I like to add some life in it. So freckles is a good way to bring it like more closer to give it some life, really. Speaking. So for that, I will go in my alpha palette and I will choose this artwork, and I will choose the different way of applying. It's not gonna be stroke, and I will be working in a color very, very subtle, like 20% of opacity, and I need it orangish. It's super subtle effect, and I was inspired to do that by just watching people who making dolls. They often add some fine and small imperfection to the dolls, so they kind of look more real life like, and I think it's really cute. I personally think freckles is really cute thing. So this is our final result. This is our Sia princess. I call her Sia princess because she has a crown. Every princess should have one. And I really enjoy working on that. Thank you, ArtStation, for having me here. I hope it was helpful and inspiring for you guys. And yeah, follow me on ArtStation and see you there.